Okay, this thing got moved. Not quite there yet. All right, there we go. All right, guys, let me know if the audio is good, and we will get going here. I can insert ads. That's cool. Huh. Did not know I could do that. All right, let me know if the audio is good, and like I said, we'll get going here. Holy cow, I accidentally just inserted like 3 ads there by accident. Cool. All right, just got word the audio is good. Cool. All right, well, this is pretty much going to be run by you guys tonight. Not really too much of an update here. Last stream, I think, was what, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I think. Videos, for the most part, have been keeping you guys pretty up to date on what's been pretty much going on. 3 weeks ago. So, wow, that was 3 weeks ago. So plant 2020 officially over. What I mean by that is, well, planter is winterized as of this weekend and put away today. So that is a nice sight to see. Our double crop beans, for those that are curious on those, they are roughly just over ankle high, and those were planted at 225, 220,000, and look really, really good. They're catching up to the interseeded beans that were interseeded into 15-inch row wheat. So that's what a lot of guys do with wheat now in our area. They will interseed soybeans into 15-inch row wheat. Now, typically, 15-inch row wheat, you typically take a 10 bushel yield hit. That's pretty common. Preferably, you'd want to plant your wheat between 10 and 7.5-inch rows. That is the most common wheat spacing there per area, but that's pretty common for our area. But what a lot of guys have moved to now is 15-inch row wheat and interseeding soybeans into them around May, late May, early mid-June to kind of get a jump start on double crop beans. Personally, we don't do that because, like I just said, there's a 10 bushel yield hit potentially with 15-inch row wheat, and we just prefer not to run over a whole bunch of wheat planting those beans into wheat. So, which we don't have a problem at all planting beans right behind the combine. I mean, as long as you've got the manpower, and plus with wheat, I mean, you don't really need to go balls to the walls unless you've got like 500, 600 acres and have all of that going in, and you're on a tight deadline because wheat's coming off late or something like that, then you're going to have issues there, and then you're going to be on a crunch there for getting double crop beans in. But for us, we've never had an issue with that. So. Why don't you run a Class 9 combine? Why does it seem your area in Corn Belt are on Class 7A combine? So that's funny. I don't know if you're asking why we run a Class 9 combine or why don't we run a Class 9 combine. Well, to kind of answer exactly what you said there, I mean, I can't really, I don't know if you know this or not, but we do have a Class 9 John Deere combine. It's a John Deere 2012 S690. Way overkill for what we need. An S680 would be perfect for us. Reason why we have an S690 is because we were at the right place at the right time and got it for one heck of a deal on an auction down at Milford, Illinois at Maori Auction at 7:32 at night. Auction started at 7 in the morning our time, and yeah, so we got it for one heck of a deal, way under dealer price, what that would be advertised at a dealer lot. So we are very fortunate that we were able to pick that up. And yeah, so that is why we run a 690. So yeah, for those that have been Snapchatting me like crazy about my hair, the Corona cut, yeah, I don't know. We'll just wing it here and see if I can get it to grow out a little bit more and lay back down again. But otherwise, I might thin it out a little bit more and kind of keep it going. But the problem is, every day I'm on the four wheeler, so it just keeps it wind blown like this. So it just is stuck like this. And I don't know. It's like a little afro, I guess. At least that's what Dad calls it. So, what brought up the idea behind the why dropping the soybeans? So, that is actually. Uh, Huh. Um, so the group of guys that we work with in Illinois, I'd say we've been working with them for about 7 years now. Yeah, 7 to 8 years now, I would say. I think 2012 or 2013 is when we first started working with them. And ever since then, they have wanted us to move away from anhydrous, or at least what they call it, go for gas, and switch to liquid and run 28 or 32 UAN, for those of you that refer to it as UAN. And the whole concept behind the Y drops came about because for the past 2 years, well, I guess let me back up there a little bit there. On that note, before I touch on that subject, we've been working with them pretty diligently for the past 6 years on pushing our corn yields higher on these irrigated sands. Well, in general, on our irrigated ground, not just our irrigated sands, but pushing our corn yields further because back in 07, when we first put the big pivot in on the irrigator 143, that was our very first irrigator, and that is to date still our biggest pivot, 10 or 11 towers, depending on how you want to look at it. But I kind of got to like tiptoe around some of this stuff, but back then we thought water was our limiting factor on yield, put it that way. And this is irrigated, this is sand, put it that way, blows, like pure blow sand. You know, we weren't content, put it that way, with 130 bushel corn, 150, 160 bushel corn. I mean, that's on, it just doesn't pencil, put it that way, in most circumstances. So when we put the irrigator in, we're thinking, hey, this is going to, magically take our yields, the 240 bushel corn, 250 bushel corn. We're thinking, hey, bada bing, bada boom, we're going to get crazy good yields with an irrigator. That's not how it works. Obviously a lot of you guys know this, especially with irrigators, it's not, that right there. I mean, I can't, Stephen, that's kind of, I'm not even going to comment on that. I mean, there's certain things I can't disclose to you guys. A lot of you guys understand that. Some of you guys obviously don't. There again, I'm just going to completely ignore that comment. But, so going back to the irrigators, obviously a 100 bushel swing can happen in some circumstances, but that's why we started working with these guys over in Illinois, because actually a neighbor, literally down in Couts, recommended them to us and said that if you're wanting to push your irrigated yields, basically just push your irrigated yields and overall boost some areas that you feel can be boosted up better. I would recommend working with these guys. So basically, when we first met with them, it's kind of like, well, what does a group of guys from Illinois know, in 3-foot topsoil country, know anything about our blow sand ground? Well, lo and behold, in central Illinois, and well, I'll kind of touch on that also. In central Illinois, there is a stretch in there that is actually, believe it or not, worse than us as far as blow sand goes. A lot of our sand came obviously from Lake Michigan. Like all of this in here used to be sand dunes. But there is a stretch in central Illinois that our guys always said was actually worse than us. Well, we never believed them to a point because we're like, blow sand's blow sand. How can it be that bad? Well, those guys out there don't even farm the dry corners. Now, I know out west that's, a totally different scenario where guys out there don't even do that also. But these guys, I believe, do quite a bit of work. I know they do quite a bit of work in Nebraska and Kansas, and I believe, I can't remember if the one grew up in Nebraska or if he grew up in Kansas. I can't remember which, but that is basically where they do a boatload of fertigating. Majority of in most places out there, a lot of their fertilizer is put all through the pivots. And they've got timing applications out there, and they put it all on through the pivot, which is actually really cool. I mean, that's seeing how we do it here. I mean, I could totally see us. I mean, I wouldn't want to do that because of the way we have starter programs set up with the starter and, side dressing and stuff like that. I don't know if I would ever want to solely rely on everything through the pivot, but it is a pretty cool concept that they put everything through the pivot. So that's, I don't know. I mean, that's pretty interesting. But so we talked with them, and we worked with them over the past 6 years and have overall increased our corn yields tremendously. But there is still room for improvement. We're always looking to increase our yields every single year. I mean, everybody is. So, we approached them this year on our annual sit-down meeting and basically going over our yield maps and discussing, okay, which soil management zones or yield zones do we need to adjust and look at here more closely. Things we want to try, approach them on that, bounce ideas back and forth. It's a whole 10-hour session. Really, it should be split up into more like 3 days at least, going over a lot of this stuff. But because at times it almost feels like we're rushing ourselves to get through to the next topic we want to talk about because we feel like we're pressed on time because it's 4 hours away from here. So we get up at like 3 a.m. to get there. And, we start and just go through everything then. But anyways, we approached them this year and said, you know what, we've got corn yields pretty well dialed in. We're pretty happy with them. Yes, we still want to keep improving them, but let's focus or shift our focus onto soybeans now and, discuss what do we need to be doing in order to increase irrigated soybean yields. Because it seems like on our irrigated sands in our area, I don't know if, it could be different in your guys' areas, but it seems like just in our vicinity here, in our irrigated sands, we hit a road barrier at like 65, 70. You're really pushing it there on irrigated soybeans, but 65 seems to catch most of our irrigated soybeans, ours, but a bunch of neighbors as well. So us and a whole bunch of neighbors are always trying to figure out what in the world can we do to, crank out 85 bushel beans under these irrigators, because there's no reason in the world, we can't be hitting 85 bushel beans under an irrigator. I mean, it just seems weird. But hold on. Dog was yiping at something. But so there's no reason in the world that we can't be hitting 85 bushel beans. So he said, first thing you need to do is drag out the 30-inch row planter and get the corn planter out there and plant beans at 30-inch rows. Now, you heard me if you guys watched the video of when we first planted beans this year. those are essentially our first road beans that we've had in over 35 years. Our last beans that we've had in rows were basically 36-inch row beans. I mean, that we've never had 30-inch row beans. We went from 36-inch rows all the way down to the drill, and ever since then. And we went from 36-inch row corn down to 30-inch row corn, and obviously you're still at 30-inch row corn. We've never tried the narrow row corn concept. A few guys in the area did try, I think, either 20 or 22-inch row corn. I think one guy is still doing it now, but I think there was a total of 3 guys that tried it, and I think the 2 ended up quitting it, and I think I know there's one guy still doing it because there's a field of 20 or 22-inch corn just literally up the road here, or down the road, I should say. But yeah, so anyways, going back to the whole, increasing soybean yield concept, he said, I want you to do that, and I want you to put starter on them, and I want you to put in-furrow on them. Basically run the same in-furrow that we run on corn, but run a half rate, and let us know, how they turn out. And they came up and they looked at them. So actually, funny thing on that, we did leave a check strip with no in-furrow. We did run starter on that check, though. We did not run any. We didn't have any checks where we didn't run any starter. We ran starter on all 30-inch row beans. The in-furrow, though, we did leave. I think Dad left 2 rounds, I think, of no in-furrow, I think. And then beyond that, since we ended up running out of in-furrow, that's why we ended up doing that check there of the half rate. We ended up doing, since we already had our corn in-furrow mixed up and in the tender at the time, we said, screw it, let's put a corn rate in, or use the corn rate in-furrow on our beans and see how they do. Now, there is a video on this. I can't really link stuff for you guys on here, but if you guys want to check out, actually, like, I put it this way, I could not get the footage at that time to put in the YouTube video because at the time, Logan Ag was just making a YouTube channel, and it has to do with the promoting of the group of guys that we work with, along with them working with Logan Ag with products that we do, or use, I should say. And it's kind of like a whole circle deal here on as far as promoting goes. So I still can't, as far as I know, I don't know my promoting boundaries as far as putting content in videos yet. Eventually, that is the goal, to put stuff that we film, that we not only film for Logan Ag, but for other things, for other customers that our group of guys work with, in the YouTube here, or on the YouTube, I should say, in videos, little clips here and there. Those videos, though, those clips will just be like preview shots of, okay, here's some highlights of the actual video that will be on Logan Ag's YouTube channel. So if you guys want to check out that in-furrow comparison of the soybean, basically a half rate of the in-furrow that we're running on corn, and the full rate, which is our corn in-furrow rate, what we run on all of our corn, and a no in-furrow check, you guys can go check out Logan Ag. I think it's this Logan Ag, I believe, or Logan Agri Supply, I believe. But Google, or just type in on the YouTube search bar, Logan Ag, and there should be one about Werner Farms, actually 2 videos about Werner Farms, one about our Premier In-furrow product that we use on all of our corn, and then the Premier In-furrow trial on the soybeans. So you guys can go check both of those videos out. We've been running the Premier In-furrow for 6 years, I would say, 6, 7, well, not, I'd say about 6 years, I would say, on our corn, and that's made a huge difference for sure on our corn yield. So I would highly recommend checking both those videos out. Like I said, there's going to be more to come on those. I will, again, like I said, have, highlights from those videos, because it's just, as of right now, I don't know. They don't know my boundaries, and I don't know my boundaries yet. They're still trying to sort this all out because they're, I guess, trying to figure out the whole promoting thing and what they want to do and the route they want to take, which I totally understand. So I'm just kind of hanging low here and kind of, just letting you guys go and check those videos out and stuff like that. But that's basically what the first thing we started looking at. But with the whole wide drop concept, we got into talking about was he goes like, then after you guys get those beans planted, I want you guys to come in and wide drop them and with a 28 applicator and basically put well, I'll tell you that we'll put thiazole on them and that's it. We'll just come in and do thiazole and that's it. And it's just like, okay, well, one, we don't have a 28 applicator. Two, Y drops? Really? That's interesting. We're kind of like, okay. Now, backing that up a few years ago, we did have our custom applicator that spreads all of our dry fertilizer come in and do some Y dropping. Now, granted, that was mostly on irrigated ground, so obviously we were able to come in with a pivot and water that in. Now, that was late season. I could not tell you the actual growth stage offhand, but we did see a good response with it. We did do some dry land over at the river at the time, I believe. I don't know if we did all of it, but I can't remember, honest to God, if we left the check over there or not. But we did see a good response as far as an overall boost because we did leave a check over there at the river. Now, we did have a guy come in, a neighbor. He has a colder machine or colder bar on his Miller Nitro sprayer, or can put that on his Miller Nitro sprayer. And we did a field, we did the big irrigator field one time, and we took the 40 on the corner and we had him come in and put an extra 40 units on top of what we fertigated. Now, at the time, I couldn't tell you how many pounds of total N that we had out there because that changes every single year as far as the number of fertigation and our gallons per acre rate as far as what we're fertigating every single year on, because, that can vary between 10, 15, 20, even upwards up to 25, depending on what, timing of applications and stuff like that. So that changes every single year. So honest to God, that was 3 years ago, and I couldn't tell you for sure total N that we had out there. But we had him put on, since he had a little bit left, one round out there at 40 with basically an extra 40 pounds. Now, we did see a 20 bushel yield response on top of, what we fertigated out there on the rest of the field. So that told us right there, what is, how much N could we actually put out there, but not just N, obviously looking at micronutrients and, potassium as well, because that's the next thing that we're going to be focusing on next year is potash. Because I feel in our sandy soils, we're just not able to hold potash, just like every other nutrient out there. We can't hold, nitrogen. We can't hold, zinc. We can't hold boron. Our boron levels are low all the time. So that's another thing we're going to be looking at next year as well, which we did do some side dress trials with boron as well this year. Which if you guys follow me on Instagram, you probably saw those pictures, and that was also part of that trial there. We did use some hydrohume from Helena, but that was, I'll talk about that a little bit later if I have some time to discuss that. But so going back again to the wide drop idea, we weren't even talking about corn then. He was actually wanting us to buy an applicator and do this for beans. And we're like, wow, I mean, you got a lot of faith, hopefully that we're going to see a big response with this, because it's like, we only want to put out 2 fields of 30 intro beans. We don't even have an applicator. We need to buy Y drops. It's quite a bit of money. So we got into talking about corn yield boosts or corn yield differences between running anhydrous and 28, not only going from anhydrous to 28, but taking it from anhydrous straight to 28 with Y drops. And the yield differences that they were telling us were quite significant. And they have actually guys doing the 30 intro beans or side dressing beans for, I believe, 1 or 2 years now, and have seen pretty good results with it. Now, We did not run thiazole. They actually wanted us to run thiazole earlier than what we did when we applied this year. We applied our products, well, not our products, it was a mix that they ended up making for us, but the products that we ended up applying late R2, early R3. So I believe they wanted us to come in around R1 and start applying thiazole, which I told Dad, I'm like, when Dad was kind of getting a little antsy, and so was I, as far as maybe we need to be getting out there and wide dropping these, because those beans were getting pretty tall, those irrigated beans, and I told Dad, I'm like, I just don't think putting thiazole out there is going to miraculously take 65 bushel irrigated beans to 85 bushel beans. I didn't think so. I felt that there was more to it that we needed to be doing just besides thiazole. I started pulling up, soybean nutrient uptake charts and studying those and doing a bunch of research on nutrient uptake timings and stuff like that, application timings. Fungicide's a no-brainer on these. We were going to put fungicide on these, especially with it being an irrigated field. And I mean, even though these beans have a high rating for frog eye leaf spot, meaning that they are very well resistant to frog eye, doesn't mean that you shouldn't be going out there and spraying, not just basically more for the stay green aspect of fungicide. That's what we found as far as if you're in a low disease pressure environment, not like this year. This year in our area, we're in a pretty high disease pressure environment based on the weather patterns that we've been in and all the humid days and mornings that we've been having. So anyways, the stay green aspect of it has been a tremendous yield bump there, as far as letting the plant to actually mature on its own and basically go through the complete life cycle there instead of doing a die and dry, early on due to disease pressures. So that's just my takeaway on fungicide. I mean, R3 is when we recommend spraying fungicide on beans. So any earlier, it just seems like you catch that late season disease pressure and you kind of tap out on your stay green aspect. So kind of around that R3 to late R4 is probably when you're going to be wanting to spray fungicide on beans. But as far as corn goes, I would say brown silk. But the problem is then you play into tar spot, which I don't know how many of you guys know what tar spot is, but tar spot is a pretty nasty pathogen now that will pretty much take 230 bushel corn down to 130 bushel corn. So regardless, what kind of ear set you actually have, I mean, it will destroy your top end yield that you have out there, or your potential out there. So basically now what they're seeming to recommend on that, this isn't just coming, from our personal experience, because we used to be spraying at brown silk. Our pioneer agronomist is now recommending that R2 stage. So actually blister you're looking in there. So we're actually going to end up spraying here towards the end of the week, if not first part of next week. So that's my takeaway on fungicide. You guys I know you guys all have your opinions on that, whether you guys agree or disagree with me on that. I guess I don't care, but that's just what we found works really good. And actually that's what on the corn side, like I said, we used to be spraying at brown silk. Now we're kind of moving our window up just due to tar spot, and that's actually what basically we're just following what our pioneer agronomist recommends, just because that's what they're seeing is working a little bit better than spraying at brown silk. So my takeaway, you guys can do with it whatever you want. So going back to wide dropping again, so they're seeing quite a bit of a yield jump by running wide drops at side dress. Why? I mean, I feel in walking fields this year and digging up plants this year and seeing those peripheral roots take off the way they have this year because of the wide drops, I believe it. I mean, you guys could say I drank the Kool-Aid, but I But this way, the fields I've walked this year, and these are fields that we've treated the same all the time. There's no differences here as far as I've walked fields with the micronutrient trial, but I'm just walking fields at the same amount of pounds of N on, just 28 and thiazole on, versus the same amount of pounds of N on that we would have with anhydrous. Same amount of pounds per N of N, but just looking and seeing the yield differences overall of what we're seeing in fields, whatever we did this year as far as fertility program worked amazingly. I mean, I'm beyond impressed, put it that way. The Y drops did a fantastic job. The N-Fix XLR did a fantastic job on the dry land. So I'm a believer in them. Like I said, the yield, as far as yield checks go, I mean, it's pretty good. But again, we've got a long ways to go yet. We still have, at least 2 months yet till harvest. So it's really, could there be a yield loss? Yes, there's still potential for yield loss for sure. But, I'm pretty well sold on them at this point until, the combine rolls through the field and says otherwise. But that's just my takeaway on it right now. But anyways, that is why we went to Y dropping on the soybeans. I know that was kind of a crazy long explanation there, but you guys want to know why, and that's basically how we got hooked up on the Y dropping. And it's a pretty interesting concept on the soybeans. I've never really would have thought we would have ever we would ever be doing this as far as planting 30-inch row beans and trying to chase yields there, and saying that potentially could we be looking at going to 30-inch row beans in the future. That it's a possibility. I mean, I don't know. I know quite a bit of guys plant 30-inch row beans. There's probably about 45% of guys in our area plant 30-inch row beans. The other remaining 55%, I would say, plant, there's some drilled guys in there like us. There's a lot of 15-inch row beans. I would say the majority plant 15-inch row beans, though, with 30-inch row beans. So not a lot of drilling anymore, it seems like. If there is drilling, I'd say between 7.5 and 10. I honestly don't really know too many guys at all in our vicinity that do 15-inch row drilled beans. So most guys, if they're doing 15-inch row beans, are planting them with Kinsey planter, it seems like. So why are you so secretive about your wheat yields? Okay, so you guys want to know the wheat yields. So the irrigated wheat did 85 bushel and the dry land did 55, 60. I mean, I'm not BSing anything there. I mean, that's what it did. So nothing to hide on that at all. So whatever. How much land will you guys have in the next 3 to 5 years? That is very hard to tell at this point. I don't know. Hopefully we will have more. I mean, again, things can change, but again, I don't know. I hope every day we can expand. I mean, it's, everybody hopes that they can increase acres, and yeah, I hope in the next 3 to 5 years, we will have more acres for sure. How are you feeling about the coronavirus? The cases in our county, well, so LaPorte County has what we call South County, which is basically, county, but we just joke that, anything south of 30 here is considered South County. They're reporting now that South County has a big spike now in coronavirus cases. My takeaway on it, I wouldn't say I'm scared. I'm just very cautious on it. Put it this way, or we haven't been really going anywhere. Yes, we did go to a couple of pioneer meetings here and there. We go shopping if we absolutely need to, for parts and groceries, obviously. But for the most part, we're not going anywhere. I just it just too, in my opinion, in our opinion in general, there's just too much of a risk, and we just can't jeopardize one of us getting sick. So that's my takeaway on it. I know there's a lot more cases increasing every day here and around the world. So all I can say is stay healthy, guys. So, hey, John, thanks for stopping in. I really appreciate it. Thoughts on the new John Deere X9 combine? So I guess there's two X9 combines. I believe there's what, an 11? No, a one. I don't even know. 1100, I think. All I remember is that there's two models, X9 Deere combine. Two models. I just can't remember 1100 and 1000. That's right. I don't know. It's pretty cool, but I don't know. $750,000 cool. I don't know. I'm just thinking that's how much it's going to be. I wouldn't be surprised. It's insane. Equipment costs are crazy, but it is a pretty cool combine, though. Well, I'm not going to be blunt as far as that goes, Stephen. As far as I'm not going to tell you, it's just you can take offense to tiptoeing, I guess, but I guess you and I have two different perspectives as far as tiptoeing goes. Again, I'm going to literally say this in a sentence as far as, I'm going to tiptoe around as far as, how about this? Sidestep around our whole economics as far as, our cost per acre or cost of production on corn or soybeans, which a lot of you guys apparently want to know, which I'm not going to disclose because there's honestly no reason for that to be out there. I don't know. I don't know. Exactly. I don't know. And through the comments here, trying to catch up to you guys. So how many of you guys, I guess let's pull this. How many of you guys actually put down starter? And if you guys are putting down starter, how are you guys putting that down? Are you guys putting it 3 inches off the row on one side? Are you guys doing like 2 by 2 by 2? Or are you guys doing like a 3 by 2? Technically 3 by 2 or 2 by 2 by 2 is essentially the same thing to a point. But I guess how many of you guys are actually putting down starter? And then also, are you guys putting down in-furrow? Or are you guys just putting down just in-furrow? Just kind of get an idea here on, who's doing what here. Because I know a lot of you guys over west, well, a lot of guys in Illinois don't do starter. And when I did one of my planning videos, one guy was just beyond amazed about the gallons that we go through planting. We're putting down 20 gallons of the acre of the product that we put down, and guys are just baffled by the amount of times that we have to stop. But it's just the way we look at it is a planned pass or a planned program with a planned pass as far as starter goes. And we have to have starter in our soil. I mean, with our soil not being able to hold the nutrients in the ground, I mean, just with our low CECs in our soil, I mean, we cannot have no starter in our soil. I mean, we have to have it, put it that way, in order to get our corn going. So that's why, we do a whole bunch of spoon feeding with the fertigating and stuff like that. It's all about the spoon feeding for us. So we can't hold the nutrients in our soil. So obviously, Paulson, I mean, that's exactly why, I always have the cost production sheet up here and we're always running numbers. I'm not looking to go to 616 bushel corn. You know, if we can make 350 bushel corn profitable, you know, I know a lot of you guys are like 350 bushel corn, but the way I see it is, you know, if we can push our yields and increase our overall ROI while doing that, it's a no-brainer to me. I mean, I'm not chasing David Hua by any means. I mean, by God, I mean, that's, you know, I would hate to think how much that would actually cost to actually raise 616 bushel corn. I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe it is profitable. I mean, I don't know. I don't know his whole program. You guys don't know our whole program. So for us, if it wasn't profitable, we wouldn't be doing it. But there again, you guys can kind of contradict that and say, well, farming isn't really profitable right now. Well, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, if you're increasing your yields and increasing your ROI at the same time, it can be profitable. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's just my takeaway on it. So if you had a choice as to what row spacing you want, what spacing would you choose? Would it be 20 or 30? As far as beans go, I don't know. Like I said, you know, with this wide dropping thing, I mean, if this wide dropping thing takes off and does really well for us, potentially stay with 30-inch row beans. I get, you know, obviously it's not going to be just after this year we're going to drop everything and go 30. No, I would prefer to do a couple more years of trials with this and see on some more irrigated fields and dry land, obviously, you know, because I'm not totally sold on the whole dry land thing yet with 30-inch row beans. They do look really, really good, but I don't know. I'd like to do a few more years of 30s with the 7.5s. Again, it's hard to, you cannot compare our 7.5s to 30s because of the fertility that we're putting down for the 30s. I mean, it's just not fair. Now, if we did straight 7.5s with straight 30s, by all means, we could compare them, but we cannot compare our 7.5s with these 30-inch row beans by any means. I mean, with the fertility that we're putting down on these 30s, you know, with the starter program, the in-furrow program, now side dressing and potentially fertigating some on the irrigated field, you just can't compare them. You just can't. I mean, that's not comparing apples to apples at that point. You know, same thing with the 28. You know, we would have pulled out the anhydrous applicator if we were not running thiazole. You know, if we were just running straight 28, you know, it'd be end to end. You know, when you throw sulfur in there, that changes the whole game there. You know, you don't know, you know, with our soil being so low CECs or with low CECs, you know, with how mobile sulfur is, you know, by applying that sulfur and looking at how we did things this year, splitting up that sulfur, that was probably one of the better things that we could have done, which we did. And, you know, it just seemed to all click really well. And by us bringing out the applicator and running, you know, 20 acres worth of anhydrous out there alongside the anhydrous or the 28 applicator, it just would not have been comparing apples to apples at that point. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's just our opinion on it. That's why we didn't do anything, but I don't know. It's time for a haircut. Well, that's what my grandma says. I'm going to thin it out this week. Don't worry. I'm from Illinois and make YouTube videos as well. Hey, I'll have to check out your channel. 7th Gen Farmer. Go check him out, guys. Didn't you try wide spacing on corn this year? No, but I think there's another YouTuber out there. I think there is. Experimenting with 60-inch corn. I know there's a few guys I follow online that are experimenting with 60-inch row corn and actually are having pretty good luck with it. Honestly, I don't know if I would ever want to go that wide, but yeah. Chavez, thanks for throwing that up there. It's Logan Agri-Service. So those of you that are interested in checking that out, you can Google Logan Agri-Service and check out their website. They have the videos up on their homepage, and you can go subscribe to them on YouTube and check out all the YouTube videos on there. So I think there's, as far as I know right now, I know there's 2 Werner Farm videos on there. I didn't edit them. The guys that they have with Logan Ag and stuff edit them. So they do a pretty good job. So yeah, so like I said, they are, we're going to be collaborating as far as that goes, as far as putting some of that content on some of my videos, you know, not only because promoting them, but also talking about, because you guys want to know the products we use. We're not going to disclose everything. It's not fair to us, but we will disclose quite a bit of stuff that we do because for promotion wise for them. So, and plus it's products that we love and have been using micronutrient blends and side dress. So connection is unstable. Please wait while we try reconnecting. Hopefully I do not lose you. Oh, there it goes. Well, I guess we're good. So, but yeah, that's the whole Logan Ag deal. So if you guys want to check that out, feel free to hop on over there and check that out. So that's something that we were talking about this year, about planting all of our beans first. You know, if we end up going to 30-inch row beans, or not even just that, but also considering planting all of our beans and then starting in on our corn, because it seems now for the past few years we've been experimenting with early planted beans, and early planted beans. The one year we've actually hit 85 bushel beans by doing that, but that was just hitting it on the monitor. We're not averaging on the monitor. You know, that's a totally different ball game there. So there is potential there. You do see a yield bump there. So that's why we've done quite a bit more fields early planted now in April versus planting majority of our beans in May, which actually majority of our beans went in the ground before May 1st, which was really good this year. So we didn't start on corn till May 4th, I believe, which that was actually pretty early for, it was, well, I wouldn't say early. It was too early for the weather conditions that we were having. We should have waited one more week. That was the only thing we wish we would have changed as far as planting season goes, that we would have waited one more week due to the cold weather that we were having. That kind of set us back a little bit on our no-till as far as emergence goes. So that's one benefit that we can say that the conventional till has over us as far as emergence goes. The sunlight on worked black soil or soil in general will heat the ground faster than having residue on top of the ground. So that is a disadvantage with the no-till. So if you have cool, wet conditions like what we had this year, we were kind of dinged on emergence just a little bit. We, as far as how long it took our corn to come up versus the neighbor's corn. Now, as far as stands go, our stands are excellent, but it just, like I said, took a few more days compared to the neighbor as far as emergence goes, just due to the colder weather that we had this spring. So, hey, Waylon, I hope I pronounced that right, but hey, I really appreciate that. So how much you guys plant tissue analysis your crops for nutrients in season? So last year, since this was kind of a late, you know, jump on the bandwagon type deal, if you can call it a bandwagon, as far as tissue testing goes, which in all honesty, I'm a firm believer in tissue testing, especially after this year and seeing the results that we're seeing as far as the responses and everything. In understanding the, I watched, you know, call me drinking Kool-Aid or whatever, but Pioneer put out a forward-thinking webinar on talking about tissue testing analysis and determining, you know, how to derive your tissue test and understand what you're even looking at. Because a lot of guys look at, okay, 4.7% nitrogen concentration in my plant. What the heck does that even mean? You know, I'm sufficient or I'm high, you know, what does that even mean? You know, I don't know. You know, it's just saying I'm sufficient. Okay, I guess I'm good on nitrogen. You know, the way I look at it is, you know, you're sufficient for that yield goal as far, you know, it's not, most guys think with tissue tests, they're taking an average of all the samples coming in and determining based on, all the samples coming in, your concentration is at an average rate, or you're sufficient for the amount of, the average, based on the average coming in. So a lot of guys think it's based off of an average analysis. It's not. It's all based on your current concentration literally in your plant, that's exactly what guys question on tissue tests. It's an actual concentration, at that time, this is what you're looking at. So, a lot of guys question that and think it's all based on an average. It's not. This is your concentration. So this year, last year we started late July, which that was way too late to even be considering doing tissue tests. Not to a point. Last year we just kind of wanted to see, okay, how are we finishing out in season, going into fall and going into dough and dent on corn. So we pulled one in late July, and then we pulled one in mid to late August, just two times, and did, I don't know, I think 5 to 7 fields, I believe. And at the time, we didn't, I hadn't watched the webinar. Dad hasn't even watched it yet, which eventually he said he's going to, because he's pretty intrigued on basically what I told him, everything I figured out from this about how to understand these tissue tests a lot better. And last year we were scratching our head pretty hard because we're like, how can the concentration levels change? Basically, I'll take, for example, this year, which Dad's really scratched his head on, but I have figured, to a point, I feel I have figured out why the concentration levels can change, even though you're not applying product or saying that you're sufficient at one point and now you're either high or excessive at some points. It's, I feel, basically all based on the growth stage of the plant. Say you're at V12 and your boron levels are low. Then you go into R1 and you're looking at, okay, your boron levels are now sufficient. You haven't even applied boron. What the heck is the deal? Well, I feel your boron concentration levels, or basically your concentration levels, are all different as far as the plant's overall needs then. So maybe saying, at V12, it's deficient, saying because, at that point, the plant needs a heck of a lot more boron than what it needs at R1. So when it gets to R1, your concentration levels are a lot lower because, well, the plant doesn't need that much boron then, essentially. I'm not saying that at V12 and R1, that's when you need to be applying or looking at doing something with boron. I'm just using boron for an example. So don't take notes on that or anything. I'm just saying, that could be why all of a sudden it's saying you're sufficient, because at that point the plant's saying, well, I don't need that much boron. So, that's why it's saying it's sufficient at that point. So again, I'm not saying, don't take notes on that as far as that's when you need to be applying boron. So I'm just using that for an example. So don't think that's what you need to be doing, because that's not what we're seeing at all. Our boron has been low throughout the whole thing. So we know now we need to be doing something definitely with boron. So again, we did do some checks on that. So we are seeing a response from applying boron. So there again, through the tissue test. So we are seeing responses through that. We've done 3 tissue tests this year. We've been doing them every 2 weeks up until this last one. This last one we let go for 3 weeks, and we probably should have done this one every 2. Well, I should back up. We probably should have done this last one 2 weeks after the second one, just based on application timing with the side dressing on the soybeans. But we lost track of time and things got a little hectic there, and we just kind of bypassed that. And it's not too big of a deal, but we're just trying to build a data set basically to kind of continue doing tissue tests in the future and kind of understanding, concentration levels as far as, when the plant is calling for the most amount of nutrients and looking at the concentrations of, okay, the plant has a smaller concentration at this point in time, saying that, okay, it doesn't need that much of that nutrient at that time, and stuff like that. I mean, that's the way I'm looking at tissue tests now versus, my plant's sufficient. I don't even need to worry about it. The way I see it is it's saying, with nitrogen, yes, that you can kind of look at nitrogen like that. But as far as the micronutrients go, I kind of study them more as far as, if the plant doesn't need it as much, if you're, like I said, taking the reference back to boron, as far as your concentrations are low, but then all of a sudden you pull a second one 2 weeks later and your boron levels are higher, it's saying the plant doesn't need that much at that time. So it's now moved into sufficient. So that's kind of how I've been studying these and understanding these a little bit better, but I don't know, who knows? I could be on the wrong track on this, but that's kind of how I took it away from this Pioneer webinar. So I don't know. Fungicide is applied every year on all of our acres on our farm. It pays more than losses, but that's our program. A lot of guys do that now. We weren't a firm believer in fungicide for a long time until this tar spot really kicked up, and gray leaf spot started to become more of a bigger problem. And so we're looking at, actually, majority of our corn ground this year is now getting fungicide. It seems like every single year we increase the number of our corn acres is getting fungicide. Bean acres we're still experimenting on. I know one guy talked to a neighbor. We were talking about fungicide, and he said that they apply fungicide on every single one of their bean acres. He says it definitely pays. I'm not disagreeing with him by any means, because we've seen it pay on every single pass that we've applied fungicide. Now, again, you guys are probably saying, if it pays on beans, or if you've seen it pay on beans, why aren't you spraying beans or spraying all your beans then? Well, it's an expensive pass, and in some circumstances, I'm just afraid, we could get bit in the butt on it. But, if it continues to pay year in and year out with more checks that we do, then we will look into doing it. It's just about more trials. The more trials you have, the more confidence, the more trials that produce positive results, the better, the more confidence that we would have in using that product. So that's the way we see it. So how much less yield or second crop soybeans do you fertilize and spray similar to your spring soybeans? So as far as fertilizing goes, we don't do any pre-plant dry fertilizer for our soybeans for double crop. First crop, or I guess you could say spring soybeans, we do pre-plant fertilizer on those. But our double crop, no. We've never have done dry fertilizer pre-plant before our double crop soybeans. Now we do treat them the same as far as spraying goes. For most part, we do not put a residual down because then it just becomes a little bit more expensive of a program. Pretty simple, we'll just go in and do our straight glyphosate program and come back in. This year, instead of using Extend, we will come back in with Enlist if need be, because we planted Enlist soybeans due to the whole program shift going on now. So potential shift more likely leading into next year, as well. So as far as a yield loss, I would say at least 10 to 15 bushel. Now that could go all the way down to 0 as well, because we've had beans 2 or 3 years ago, double crop yield 60 bushel across the scale. We typically see 45 catches most of our double crop beans though, but we did have that one field which was pretty awesome, which for our area it's really unheard of to average 60 bushel double crop beans, dry land especially. And that I don't know I don't know if it was just sunlight or what that time of year was, with the timing and everything. I couldn't tell you, but it was pretty phenomenal cutting those. So, but typically 35, 45 bushel double crop beans typically. You can get some 50, 55s, but like I said, we did hit or average 60 on the one field the one time. So technically, I mean, they're not too far off from first crop soybeans or spring soybeans or however you want to refer to them as. So if you invest in a Haggie, would you sell the applicator and switch to wide dropping with a Haggie? A lot of guys have asked me as far as not so much that, but why didn't we invest in a sprayer if we are wide dropping all of our side dressing or wide drop side dressing? Frankly, because most of our post emerge on corn, basically when we are finishing up post emerge applications on corn, we are starting on side dressing for the most part, typically about halfway through towards the end of post emerge spraying on corn, we're starting side dressing, and side dressing will lead all the way into the end of spraying post emerge beans. So basically, the sprayer is tied up spraying post emerge, so that would just be another thing for the sprayer to try and keep up with. So this just makes it a little bit easier and gives the sprayer a little bit more of a break. Now, would we go with a Haggie for a sprayer? It would be really nice, but in order to justify a low-hour Haggie, that's just it's just not in the cards at all because from the majority of guys I talk to, on the leg bushings on those Haggies around the 2,000, 2,500, 3,000 hour mark. That's what basically the time would be to replace those leg bushings and do a lot more maintenance thereon. That 2,000 or that 2,500 to 3,000 hour mark is probably the most I'd be willing to spend on a Haggie, just because of how much they hold their value. But for as far as a sprayer goes, what we'd be considering, an R4038 would be really nice, but there again, you're stepping up into a little bit newer of a John Deere sprayer, and there again, the price goes up as well with that. And in order to justify 1,000 hour, 1,500 hour, 1,800 hour sprayer, well, not even so much 1,000 hours, but really just a 1,500 to 2,000 hour mark sprayer there, you're talking $200,000, which is not what we're wanting to spend at all. So I've shifted my focus more on a 4830 or maybe a 4730 if we're willing to go 90-foot boom, which I just don't know about 90-foot boom. I'd almost rather go with 100, but that's just my opinion. Now, rear versus a front boom, I haven't done hardly any spraying with our current setup because that is more geared towards how Dad's comfort with that is. So I've only sprayed a very minute amount with that. So I would be totally okay with going either with a front boom or a rear boom because I'd be getting broke in on this sprayer, so it wouldn't really affect me as far as that goes. There's disadvantages and advantages to both, but in my opinion, it's just more about the corrosion aspect and the product on the sprayer. Yes, you can keep it clean, but am I going to be out there every day or every couple of days pressure washing the sprayer and making sure it's clean? No. I hate to say that, but no. But that's my biggest, what I feel is the biggest disadvantage in my opinion with a front mount boom versus a rear mount boom. With a 4830, could we actually do our own fungicide on corn? To a point, yes, with a tall crop kit, but would I be willing to do that? Necessarily no. I feel it'd almost be easier just to have it done by a plane. But with the spraying on beans, definitely I'd easily do the fungicide for our own use for spraying the fungicide on our beans. Obviously, I mean that's a no-brainer there. But this year, I don't know if we're going to use the plane on the beans or if we're going to have our chemical dealer come in and use their Haggie. I know our Helena rep wants us to do a fungicide with insecticide program out there. We've never put insecticide with our fungicide, so that will be an interesting trial if he's still willing to do the trial. I don't know, because this was all him bringing this up, so I don't know if he's going to follow through with that or not, but I don't know. But we did try Hydrohume, comparing it to, so if you guys saw the picture on Instagram, we compared Hydrohume, which is a humic acid product / nutrient uptake enhancer from Helena, really thick. I wouldn't say gooey, but it's a really thick product. After running it, I'm not too big of a fan of it at all. But we did try Hydrohume. It's a gallon per acre rate, and I compared that to just using Enfix XLR, which is a UAN urea stabilizer there, mostly geared towards volatilization, targeting that. Or at least for our aspect, that's why we were using it, is for the volatilization aspect and giving us a 21-day window there for applying with the Y drops. And then I compared those two with the microfeed that we put down that we used from Logan Ag with Enfix XLR. And the microfeed with the Enfix XLR, which I'm not going to tell the analysis on that, because the analysis, I don't think that is a confirmed product yet that they are selling. I think this is still in the beta stage as far as product testing goes yet with that product. But the microfeed, which is a micronutrient blend, just micronutrients, no nitrogen, no potash in that, with the Enfix XLR, was hands down the best plant out of that whole comparison there. The Hydrohume did show response over just using Enfix XLR, but the microfeed with Enfix XLR was hands down the best one, and the root mass on it was significantly bigger. Now, again, a lot of you guys are going to say you can't just look at root mass, but our theory, not only what we've seen in the past working with our guys, the bigger the root mass, the bigger potential you have for uptake of nutrients and scavenging water, which that is huge in our soil. So that's what we've seen in the past. So that's just my 2 cents on that. I'm not saying Hydrohume's a bad product by any means. I can't even say that. I can't even really voice any negative opinions on it as far as bushel loss, because really we have not even picked the trial yet. So but it does work. So at least it showed a response there out in the field. So I will be sharing you guys the results as far as bushel difference between those 3 trials, because I know a lot of you guys are going to be interested in that. And there is also a check out there with just 28 in thiazole, so no Enfix XLR. Now, we did not walk that trial because we ran out of time and I had to go do some drone work for a neighbor of ours. So I did not have time to walk that check strip, but eventually here I wouldn't mind checking that out sometime before fall, and at least just pulling ears and doing like a yield check comparison there. But I will be sharing the bushel difference there with you guys, because I know a lot of you guys are going to be interested in that. So yeah, guys, be sure to check out 7th Gen Farmer. He makes YouTube videos and he's from Illinois, so be sure to check him out. So you guys run 360 bandits, 360 wave, and totally tubular. Okay, so yeah, that's a pretty cool setup. We were actually looking at bandits, Bandits came about after Yetter's 2x2x2 setup that we run. But the Bandits is actually a pretty cool idea. It's a little bit different modification it's the same concept of what we run, just a little bit different design, and I kind of almost like that design over the Yetter, but I'm a really big fan of the dual inject Yetter style that we run. So exactly, Rich. That's why, I don't know, none of us really know his whole program as far as how to get 616 bushel corn. You know, is it really profitable? I have no clue. But like I said, the fertigating and stuff like that, we would not be doing the number of fertigation applications that we are doing if it wasn't profitable. So, I mean, that's our takeaway or my takeaway on that. And, some of you guys, some of the neighbors refer to it as, you're just dumping crap on crops. Well, the way I see it is it's increasing our ROI and overall our top end yield. So, I don't know. So, any news on when you're going to get the 8RX? Well, that's yeah, that's pretty funny there. That's never going to happen unless something major changes with our John Deere dealer and they decide to want to work with me a little bit more on that. But as of right now, our salesman, no, I couldn't even see our salesman bringing out something like that, let alone a tractor for us to demo. So, which is kind of disappointing. I wouldn't really care about the 8RX because, yeah, the 8RX is cool, but, bring me out like an 8320R, something realistically that we'd be considering to replace the 4650 or add to the farm. Not so much replace the 4650 because, I don't know, that's going to be really hard to part ways with the 4650. But, bring me out something that would be realistic to, try and get an understanding on, a feel for something like that. And then I would consider, buying more equipment from our local John Deere dealer if it was reasonable and, having more demo opportunities. Yes, we were, it was pretty cool to be able to run. We weren't really focused on the 2016 S680 that we got to try out. We were more focused on the Draper last fall that we got to demo because that was what we were wanting to compare, an FD140 McDon with a 640 John Deere, because what boiled down to it was, our John Deere dealer was really wanting us to buy a John Deere Draper, obviously. And, we were still kind of stuck on the McDon, and we still kind of are. So, but there are advantages of the Deere head, or that the Deere head has, over the McDon. So more as more due to the flex sickle. That's what I'm just trying to say. So the flex sickle has, tremendous benefit over the McDon. I mean, plain and simple. I mean, it just in ridge ground, I mean, that would be a big thing, or even rolling ground. I mean, plain and simple, the flex sickle would be huge in that. But for us, with our flat field, our fields that we keep relatively smooth as what we can, we do not see a benefit at all to running a flex sickle on our ground. So now in some of the custom work, we did find that the flex sickle would definitely be useful, but we're not. With the maintenance, the added maintenance, it seemed like that the John Deere Draper had compared to the McDon, it just felt like, we were pretty happy with the McDon, but we are, again, like I said, there are advantages to the Deere head as well. So just my thoughts. So no, we haven't done anything with our Draper. So I know that's going to be asked as well. Have you seen the new Case IH AFS Connect Magnum? Yes, I saw that revealed every day at the National Farm Machinery Show. But last year, or this year, I should say, which was pretty cool. The AFS Connect, I feel, has finally caught up to the John Deere 8R, and then John Deere took it a step further with their new 8R release this year and completely knocked. Well, no, not this year, last year. So kind of felt like Case kind of caught up there, and then I felt like John Deere just knocked it out of the park again and took it to a whole new level. So not knocking on Case too much there, but the AFS Connect Magnum looks pretty cool. Have you ever had Case equipment on your farm? Yes, at one time we were. We did have a. Couldn't tell you. I can't remember for sure offhand what international we actually were running at one time, but we did have an international there that we were trying out for a little bit. See, double cropping, I think if you get anything north of Illinois, because I don't think in Rockford they do anything, pretty much kind of draw a line right here. I think they do a little bit in Michigan with some like group like O's, but or very early ones. But I think if you get kind of like anything north of like Illinois, like the Illinois state line there, um, double cropping pretty much tapers off. So, yeah. So, hopefully I don't butcher this too much. Pastorino Farms. I hope I pronounced that the best I can. I don't know. I hope I didn't butcher that. Are you going to build a new sprayer tender since the floor is shot, or can you use the fert tender for that? Some of you guys were asking me on Snapchat what the next purchase is going to be. Now, that is not going to be the next purchase. That is on the list, though, for this winter. More than likely this winter, unless we decide to do something now, which I highly doubt. But this winter, for sure, going to build a totally new spray tender. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Spray tender, as far as everything goes, it's going to be 2-inch plumbed for now, unless something majorly changes. That is the plan. Totally new spray tender. That's going to be really nice to have. One that we can actually move with the semi. I'm not saying that this one can't be moved, but I'm just saying that one is not quite roadworthy. And now after this year, seeing that floor the way it is, that is definitely not roadworthy. That's why it only goes 2 miles from that cold storage shed just sitting outside over there, over to the farm here, 2 miles from here or from there, and sits here at the farm. At one time, when we were farming a big chunk of ground in Stark County, we actually used to pull it over there and tend out of the trailer there. So we used to have that portable, obviously, but since age and rotting of the floor, which we did not know it was that bad till this year, and you guys, those of you that saw it on Snapchat, that was, yeah, we did not think it was that bad. Put it this way: if we would have filled that tank would probably be on the ground. So, yeah. So, but yes, that's the plan for sure. Regardless if we decide to do something with the sprayer or not, a different sprayer tender for sure will be happening this winter. So, 48-foot van trailer, nothing bigger than that. No 53-foot. So 48-foot. That is the same. That van trailer out there that we have for a spray tender is 48-foot. But yeah, so 45, 48-foot. I would prefer 48-foot. Swing doors, more than likely. We don't need a roll-up door and a lift gate on that, but more than likely just swing doors. So probably a side door. So you're talking a reefer, unless there's rare dry van that you can find out there for cheap. And what I mean by cheap is anything under 10 grand. That's really decent. This trailer, out there was like, we bought that. I'm not going to tell you the actual price, but we bought that for under $8,000 up in Detroit. And we ended up this past week here, we ended up replacing all the airbags on it because the one we're pretty sure was close to getting blown out. And that could be partly because Dad and I kind of pushed a little bit there on how much we can actually put in there. We were pulling out of Co-Alliance. Well, Dad pulled out of Co-Alliance. I didn't pull out of Co-Alliance that heavy or near that heavy ever over there. But Dad pulled out of Co-Alliance with probably 106,000 total, not in the trailer, but just total weight. I pulled out, or no, 100. Well, he was probably 108 when it was all said and done. But I pulled out of Brems at 106,450. No, 106,540, and it's like, my God, we're pushing this thing hard. Now, I wouldn't want, well, with water is only 8 pounds per gallon, 7 pounds per gallon. So technically we can put a lot more gallons in there than what we can with the fertilizer tender. But with the fertilizer tender, you're talking fertilizer, 28 diazole roughly at around estimation of 11 pounds per gallon. Now I understand that is not exact. We just use 11 pounds as a good reference there, round estimation guess, as far as pounds per gallon, as far as weight goes. So, yeah. So that is the plan, though, for spray tender. You betcha, Tim. That is exactly right. That is exactly the way we see it. Yep. Hopefully those storms, James, hit us sometime between 7 and 3 o'clock tomorrow, like what they're talking, but we'll see. So demo a Fent they want to grow. Joking. Actually, there was a Fent deal. One of my friends actually was working on getting a Fent Ideal combine up here, but that kind of just completely fell through the cracks. I have no clue what happened there. Same thing with the Oxbow sprayer. The Oxbow sprayer kind of just all of a sudden didn't even happen. I honestly have no clue what even happened there. New Holland dealer was going to demo us a New Holland sprayer. That never happened. The skid steer demo from them could still happen. That'll probably potentially happen this winter, but I have no clue why the sprayer demo didn't even happen. But I don't know. This is what we deal with on equipment demos. I don't know. So I know you guys love seeing equipment demos, but sadly you're not going to see too much on this channel. I know Brian does quite a bit of equipment demos. I know Zach does quite a bit of equipment demos. Rush Farms, I think they do. I know they got a 780 or 790 there last year. That was a pretty cool video to watch, but that Alex filmed in Ross and Augie. Farm YouTuber Agri Studios drilled corn in June as an experiment. So that's who it was. I remember one stream that I think 2 years ago. A guy was talking about drilling corn in 7.5-inch rows, but I think he was doing it for silage, I believe. But I heard somebody else telling me about that in another stream, I think 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, about another guy. And so that's who it was. I did not know it was Agri Studios, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's what a lot of guys have been complaining about in our area, is about the case GPS, all the issues they seem to have. And they ask us all the time if we have issues with our John Deere units. And we hardly have any issues with our John Deere units as far as dropping signal issues, stuff like that. It's, yeah. we don't hardly have any issues with the John Deere units. So we run all RTK on both our units. Eventually, when we get a sprayer, whether that be for next year or the year after, we will get a third unit and keep that solely on the sprayer. So, and that will be RTK as well. So RTK, in our opinion, is a no-brainer. So sub-inch accuracy is perfect. We love it. Friend broke a trailer in half. Yeah, that's what we were kind of afraid of with the amount of weight that we're putting in this trailer, but so far it's holding very well. So hold that. Oh, okay, I'm back. So, a curtain side trailer for a tender seems nice for the accessibility. Larson Farms has a hose reel and a utility sink. Nice for hand washing and cleaning jugs. So many little features you can add. So, I was actually watching a couple of his videos this evening before I actually did a live stream. And I like the curtain side trailer idea because accessibility, like you just said, all the way down the whole trailer. Not ruling that out for sure. But again, it's an option. So we're considering that. Could you tell what population on wheat is the best? Huh. I think we were dropping 1.6 million with the drill. 1.6, I want to say. And that seems to work the best, I think. I think we were dropping 1.6, if I remember right. So don't quote me on that. If we decide to plant wheat this year, which is not too big of a possibility this year, but if we do, we can talk wheat populations then. So, well, if I don't get too many more comments here, I know there's 62 of you guys in here, which I really appreciate you guys all tuning in and liking the stream. We're going to go ahead and end it here in about another 10-ish minutes, unless we get off on another discussion rant here. But yeah, so next video will be tomorrow. I got to edit that yet tonight, and that will be tomorrow. Last side dressing video. Next video after that will be Wednesday, then Friday, and then potentially another live stream next Sunday, potentially, and then continuing on with Monday, Wednesday, Friday for videos. So that is the plan. So, ever looked into crop dusting drones? Yes, but the only issue there is they are extremely expensive. They are $25,000. Yeah, $25,000, and you have to, which isn't a big deal, on getting applicator license, which that is something I'm going to start working on here, is getting a private applicator license and eventually probably a custom applicator license as well. You have to have a private applicator license, but I think you have to have, well, I know this for a fact, you have to go through the FAA regulatory regulations as far as applying for a waiver in order to be allowed to essentially spray with a drone, whether that be fungicide, glyphosate, aerial applications. As far as with a drone, you have to be regulatory approved by with the FAA. So that is a very lengthy process in order to do that, but which I'm definitely not going to look into unless there's a significant reduction in price on those drones, or this YouTube really takes off and I can afford to blow $25,000 on a drone. So that's my takeaway on that. But I sent you a DM on 30 intro beans with your pointer. Sounds good, Tim. I'll have to check that out. So after this stream, I will definitely be sure to hit you up on that then and check that out. So like I said, we'll run this till about 10:40, 10:45-ish in there, unless, like I said, we get on a big discussion rant again. And yeah, so like I said, I really appreciate you guys tuning in. And I already told you guys all when the new videos are going to be dropping here. Potentially there will be a new purchase. More than likely, I'm 98% sure here next month. So you guys can look forward to that. So you guys can place your guesses on that or place your bets on that as far as what we're going to be getting. Nothing big, but it's going to be small and mighty as far as the use that we're going to have for it. So it's going to do a lot of great things for us. And no, it's not a skid steer. A lot of you guys are thinking that, but it's not a skid steer. Yes, potentially you could actually build one, but which I've thought about too is building a drone, which it's necessarily not hard to do, but I've never really had the need to do spot spraying with a drone, but it would be another option, I guess. So have you seen the thing where people are planting corn and beans 20 feet apart in the same field? So actually just over in Stark County, a neighbor that we farm over there by, he actually does that. I don't know if he does it or did it this year or not. Basically doing that, but on 40-foot passes. So 40-foot beans, 40-foot corn, 40-foot beans. Basically, the whole thought process is on that is maximizing sunlight utilization efficiency there for corn and beans both. So I don't know. He claims that he can get 300 bushel corn doing that and 95 bushel beans. I don't know. I don't think we would ever try that at all. I have no desire to do that. I just feel it'd be a nightmare as far as spraying goes and as far as side dressing and everything. I mean, I just feel your end rows would just be, you might as well not even have end rows. Excuse me, end rows at that point. So, but it is a pretty neat concept, though. Everything is made in China. As far as drones go, yeah, majority of the drones, I hardly know of any U.S. brands really for drones. I know GoPro was experimenting with a drone and they sold it there for a little while, the Karma, and the Karma pretty much fell on its face because of the whole just product thing, that they had going with it. It just wasn't a very good drone at all. So, but in my opinion, I'm a big fan of DJI. DJI is a great drone company. I don't care if they're Chinese or not. I mean, it's a really great drone company. Do you mix your own seed? So James, elaborate on that. Are you talking about cover crop seed or elaborate? Well, how would you? How would that bump up bean yield? Supposedly, it's just due to maximizing, like I said, sunlight. Supposedly, I mean, he's just banking on sunlight to increase his yields. So, which in theory, maximizing your sunlight utilization, and especially with like timing of planting correlating with the summer solstice and stuff like that, you can achieve higher bean yields. But I don't know. Like I said, supposedly he feels with the nodulation from the soybeans, that is where he's getting the increase on his corn yields. And to be honest, I don't really understand the idea of sunlight just magically taking 60 bushel beans to 95 bushel beans, which I understand there is a benefit there, but I don't think there's a 30 or 35 bushel yield benefit there. Exactly. I totally agree with that on that statement there, Tim. Intercropping, then weeds, water hemp issues that we have in our area, no. Mare's tail, same way. No. Nope. I just, yeah. Well, we are approaching. Oh, hold on. That's interesting. Anyways, yeah, so we are right here at 10:40, 10:45. I'll give it another 5-ish more minutes here. But 10:45, I'll cut it off because I do have to edit another video tonight. So, and that's going to take me at least another hour and a half. So, they're advertising next, Nate, on YouTube channels. You can make money by mixing your own seed with the herbicide, etc. Oh, mixmate. Okay. Yeah, mixmate for $25,000 to $30,000. I know a lot of you guys were asking us or messaging me about getting mixmate for sprayer and stuff like that. We just can't justify spending $25,000 to $30,000 on a chemical inductor, essentially. So that's my 2 cents on it. I mean, it is a really cool system. I did a video on it. It's up on the channel right now. It's under the National Farm Machinery Show video that I did earlier this year. But for $25,000 to $30,000, I'm not spending that money on a essentially a inductor. I mean, at that point, it is really cool how it measures products, and you get that precise, that precise measuring a product, but it just not for that money. So grid applications for fertilizer. What we ended up going to, instead of doing, I assume with grid application, you are doing grid soil sampling then. And I assume if you're doing that, you're probably doing it on a 2.5 to 5 acre grid then. We used to do grid sampling at one time, I believe. This was way before my time as far as sampling goes, because majority of my time, we've always done soil management zones based off of yield maps, and therefore, making variable rate spread maps off of those management zones. So that's kind of the way we've done it for quite a few years now, and it's paid for itself very well by doing variable rate applications that way. Um, so eventually, what I would like to do is make variable rate uh, side dress maps eventually for our dry land, and also consider doing that for our irrigated fields because of the dry corners. We can actually, I wouldn't say we could save a bunch of money by doing that, but it would cut costs a little bit there, as far as skimping down on the fertilizer, because we don't need, you know, 30 more gallon more than what we need out there on those dry corners, because those dry corners are only going to make 160 to 190. So it's kind of like, why dump all the same product? You just can't, just, it doesn't work. There's no reason to dump that much fertilizer out there. So what do I think of Yamaha's ag drone? Never looked into it. I'll have to check that out. Would I look into something like a Chembine like Brown Farms has? Not really sure. Chembine. I'm trying to think of what you're trying to refer to here as. Or I know you're thinking probably somewhere. It's probably something I've heard of or seen at the farm show, and it's just slipping my mind. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, with the knife. Yeah, okay, yeah, I see what you're talking about. Yep, I've seen that quite a bit, and actually, it just popped up the other day on Facebook when I was on Facebook the other day, because I was actually looking up sprayer tender ideas as far as modifying stuff. But yeah, the Chembine, that's a pretty interesting system. That would be something I feel is more cost effective and more affordable than the mixmate, because, like I said, you're talking $25,000 to $30,000 on a chemical inductor. That's just, in my opinion, insane. But Siegler Dairy Farms, or Siegler Farms, a dairy. Yep, I watch Siegler, and yep, I've seen this tractor with 6 tires. So, last question for the night: detasseling corn. Detasseling corn has to do with the seed corn, and it's all having to do with setting plants back in order to pollinate the corn that they want to pollinate. Basically, I'm just trying to give you a really easy answer here on that, with the males versus the females. So that is, they detossel the females to set those females back, and then because they want the males to pollinate the females. So by detosseling them, causes all the pollen, or the majority of the pollen in theory, from the males to pollinate the females, because they want male genetics crossbreeding with the female plants in order to make a new hybrid. So that's the theory behind that. So they only do that in seed corn fields. They don't do that in commercial corn or common corn, however you want to refer to it as. I refer to it as commercial corn. So, with that, I really appreciate all you guys tuning in, everybody liking the stream on their way out. And like I said, new video releasing tomorrow, Wednesday, Friday, new stream potentially on Sunday at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, somewhere in there. And new videos all next week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, unless I get a whole bunch more content this week, and then that might change. And that will all be based on the weather here. So with that, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below. And I will catch you guys in the next video and next stream. Thanks for watching.